So last year I turned 40 and shared a video with my 40 favorite movies of all time, and we celebrated our 15th wedding anniversary. But what does she have to say about my favorite movies, the movies I make her watch all of the time? So today I'm gonna stop and have her rank my 15 favorite movies from the worst to the best. This video is brought to you by Raid Shadow Legends. By now, you've probably heard of Raid Shadow Legends, but did you realize it's Raid's 3rd anniversary?
Happy birthday!
And over Raid's 3 years, it's only gotten bigger and better and added more and more champions. And speaking of the champions, one of my absolute favorite aspects of the game is that there is a robust set of champions. And to give you my top 3 favorite champions, in 3rd place is Doom Screech, a terrifying looking creature that packs a mean punch. In 2nd place is Gaelic, my highest level character who has some awesome moves. And in 1st place is, of course, Crusader, who looks awesome and has an amazing super attack. To celebrate Raid's 3rd anniversary, they're like doing a reverse birthday party where they're giving away a bunch of free gifts, some of the best prizes Raid has ever given out. Champions, piles and piles of shards, and other goodies. And if you use my link or scan the QR code right here, new players will get a free starter pack worth $40 to kickstart your game. We're talking free champions, Misericord, Tiger Soul, and Romero, 10 Magic XP Brew, 10 Force XP Brew, and 10 Spirit XP Brew. All new and existing players can get birthday gifts worth over $25. Once you're in-game, just enter promo code 3-Year Raid to get your hands on everything. If you're ready to join the adventure, the link is down below in the description. Use the promo code to get your free birthday gifts. And let's get started. Coming in last place, Inception, Christopher Nolan's dream heist adventure film. I think it's one of just like the most amazingly crafted scripts of the last 20 years. You think it's garbage. What's up with that?
I don't think it's garbage. I think this list is really hard because, like you said earlier, we like a lot of the same movies. And then
when you think number 15 on this list for me is still my 15th favorite movie of all time.
Sure.
Point of reference, worst doesn't actually mean worst in this context.
And I think I tried to think, which one do I like? And then not only that, but which one would I watch most often? And this is just not one I'm hardly ever
in the mood.
Like, hey, let's watch that again.
Yeah. You mustn't be afraid to dream a little bigger, darling.
It was amazing the first time. Amazing. It blew my mind.
Right. It's the sort of film that just wows you with how intelligent it is, how well crafted it is. But it's not a movie that I would say...
And I think of it every single time I see it top. Every single time.
Correct. It's like a movie that sticks with you, but it's also not a movie that you just like, let's throw something on in the background. Yeah, it's not the easiest to digest. It's one that you have to sit and watch. Yeah. Let me guess, you also like your Leonardo DiCaprio movies with him dead at the end, right?
I do not. I do like Titanic, but I do not like Titanic because he died.
Oh. Just checking. Number 14, Ghostbusters. Now, this is the original Ghostbusters. I guess you weren't a Ghostbusters person growing up.
I was not. And to be fair, I'm almost still not. I really like Ghostbusters without the ghosts. I don't like creepy things, spooky things. Lady in the Library freaks me out. Slimy things.
And this is a recurring thing. You don't like scary movies, so some of the movies that are in your top 7 are actually pretty impressive because they don't fall into the category of what you normally enjoy.
Yeah. So, I mean, I get why they're classics. I enjoy them to a degree. I definitely enjoy them more now that our kids are starting to be interested in them. But it's back to what we said with Inception. It's just not something I'm like, oh, I want to watch something. Let's put on creepy ghosts, please.
Well, that's what's kind of interesting having kids is that our kids love scary ghost stuff. And so I'm all about that. And you're like, really? Is it too soon? I'm kind of freaked out by this. Are they freaked out by it? And that's what we just learned. We're all kind of wired differently and like different things. Like, you love Lady Ghostbusters.
You have a special place in your heart for Lady Ghostbusters?
Because it changed the trajectory of my life. This YouTube channel started with us on a date night seeing Lady Ghostbusters.
I loved the Ghostbusters cartoon. We watched that a ton growing up. A ton. I really liked Slimer and the Marshmallow Man, although I didn't really understand the context. But the franchise overall, I get. I really liked the new one. I just don't like ghosts.
Next up, Star Trek, the movie that I picked. When I did my top 40, basically I used one movie from a franchise, and so my favorite of the franchise was Star Trek II, The Wrath of Khan. You can pick your own favorite Star Trek movie and discuss it, but you got this at number 13. You weren't a Star Trek person growing up.
I was not.
You didn't go to a lot of Star Trek conventions in the 90s?
I went to zero. I still technically have been to zero Star Trek conventions. Cause
they're the exact same as
just exclusively
Comic-Cons.
Star
It's just
Trek.
exclusively Star Trek. What's your take on Star Trek?
Star Trek in general, I mean, I think it's fair to say that I'm a fan. And I think...
That's good. I converted her.
I think that's pretty obvious. I liked 4 with the whales. We talk about it a lot more than I would have ever imagined speaking about a Star Trek movie in my day-to-day life. And then The Wrath of Khan, we got to see it live with William Shatner, not with him.
5.5 years ago now.
And you took a picture with him?
Yes, she took a selfie with him.
I mean,
he was on stage.
behind
She's
me.
like walking to the bathroom and went like this, so he's the blurry dot on the stage. But she
really
did get a
excited.
selfie with William Shatner in the background.
And then you got a picture with him at the last Comic-Con.
I did. It's
we went to
actually
together.
right on the wall right there. I'm not going to grab it. What would you say is your favorite Star Trek movie?
I think Star Trek in particular is tricky because it's such a sprawling
55
fandom.
years old now.
Yeah.
Or 56 this year.
And so there's so many like beloved things, and then there's so many kind of, ooh, why did they do that things? But I think if I had to pick like the most rewatchable, I would say 2009. That was amazing.
It's just very
In my
accessible by modern viewing standards.
Yeah. Well, and it brought back some of the things you loved about the past. It was an echo of it to some extent.
Number 12, Star Wars. For me, I go with Empire Strikes Back on this one. Obviously, I'm Star Wars for life. Grew up on these movies, had the toys and everything like that. Star Wars doesn't crack your top 10. So, I guess when it comes to wizards, you like your wizards British and in grade school, not in space with laser swords?
Sure.
All right, we got that settled. Should we move on, or do you have something to say about Star Wars?
I do have a Star Wars wallet.
Okay. Oh, that's true. People talk to you about it all the time.
All the time. I'm like, no, the people that dry
Do you
cleaners
tell
know
them?
me. They're like, oh yeah, you're the one with the wallet.
Do you tell them it's not even in your top 10?
No.
Yeah.
They ask me what my favorite one is, and I say The Mandalorian.
That's fair. I mean, it's a huge part of our family. Like, it was the first thing that our kids were ever, like, Liam was excited about it before it came out, and so are we, and that's the first time that ever happened.
Quick segue backwards. Also, the first thing that Liam was ever afraid of on TV was Star Trek. When he saw that green monster that Shatner was fighting.
The Gorn.
Then he freaked out and screamed and cried.
So why is Star Wars not in your top 10?
I think the rewatchability, and then there's just so much in the middle.
That's not so good.
I the first 3 always hold a special place in my heart. Our next door neighbors growing up used to babysit us, and they introduced us to the series, and so it was like this cool thing we got to go do. I don't know, it just felt kind of grown up and neat, and I don't know. I've always loved it, and I loved it then, but yeah, it's just there's so much pain and
disappointment.
and disappointment.
And so you would say Mandalorian's your favorite of
Hands
the Star Wars
down.
world. Okay.
Hands down.
Number 11, Superman the movie. I kind of also tied up with Superman 2. They were written and filmed together. So I grew up, once again, on those Christopher Reeves Superman movies. Those are the movies that invented this genre that basically I built my channel around. I get it if you're younger and you think they haven't aged well. Fair enough. I got you. I'm tracking with you. What's your thoughts on it?
I don't know if you know this. I think Superman is the first movie I ever remember seeing.
I don't think I knew that.
I remember watching it, or my family was watching it in the living room at our house in Houston. I was like 2 or 3. Like, it was a very long time ago. So it was on TV, though, so it obviously wasn't in theaters. But
that was actually a huge thing when Superman and Superman 2 aired on network television, like Sunday night movies and things like that. That was actually a big event back in like the 80s, early 90s, and they actually crammed a bunch of footage into the network versions of it to stretch it out to put more ads on it because they spent millions of dollars to gain access to it. And so before you had DVDs with deleted scenes, like the network premiere of some of these movies would have extra footage. And so I saw scenes in it. I was like, oh, that's cool. On the version we had recorded on VHS. And then when I bought the movie, I was like, hey, where's the scene where Superman did this? What happened to it?
As opposed to, like, when we were in high school, it's the complete opposite. Like, you watch something on TV, and you're like, oh, I really like this. And then you watch the extended, and you're like, oh, my, that was not on the other version. But I just love Superman. I mean, a classic hero, and Christopher Reeve was just the best. I was just talking to my friend about Christopher Reeve and how fantastic he was as I perceived him as a human being, and then just how perfectly he was cast as Superman. That's the thing I liked most about his portrayal of Superman, was the distinction between Clark Kent and Superman.
Speaking of Batman, kicking off our top 10, Batman Begins, as well as The Dark Knight, or the Christopher Nolan Batman films. For me, I love origin stories. It's kind of a definitive origin story for Batman, because even in the comics, Batman Year One, there's different ones, but there's not like a nice succinct version like you get in Batman Begins. And so I just love that movie for that reason. Of course, that it's followed up by The Dark Knight, which is obviously a fantastic comic book movie.
I'm Batman.
Earlier, you said you hated Christopher Nolan.
I did not.
Well, that's what I heard. That's what I heard as like a personal attack. What's your take on these Batman movies?
Well, I would imagine that if we actually sat down and talked about it, made like a list of movies that had come out, you could maybe point out one that disproves this theory. But whereas Superman is the first movie I remember where like there was this big comic book hero on screen, this was the first movie I can think of in this moment that was like a realistic superhero interpretation. Like, it had always been not really silly, but straight up make-believe for superheroes to be superheroes. And this was the first time.
Didn't put it in any sort of grounded reality. No. It doesn't try to justify or rationalize how anything's able to take place. You're just supposed to be able to accept like all the technology.
A grown man running around wearing a costume is somehow intimidating, or I don't know.
Batman can put ice skates in his bat boots. How did they do it?
Yes. So I think I really appreciated this in particular because it was the first time it was like, it felt more grounded, and it was obviously gritty.
Yeah.
And I mean, Christian Bale.
Christian Bale. He's in the new Thor movie.
As who?
The villain.
Okay.
He's covered in makeup. Then we have Rocky. I've said it many times before. Rocky Balboa is my favorite character in cinematic history. Question, have you ever been to the Rocky Steps in Philadelphia?
I have.
You have?
I have.
And you didn't take me?
I didn't know you.
Oh. I went to them, actually, just last week. So that's pretty exciting.
And you didn't take
me.
me.
I didn't take you, so.
And you knew me.
And I did know you, so. What's your take on the Rocky movies?
I love them. I think a big part of why I love them is because of how they're interwoven in our story. We watched. Yes. I think you introduced me to them. I don't remember watching them before. Certainly not as often as I have since I've known you. And then on our honeymoon, we watched Rocky Balboa.
Yep.
So, I mean, I love...
It's like, before we could leave to go to an exotic location for whatever people normally do on honeymoons, was like, we got to go to the movies. A new Rocky movie came out. So what do you think about the Rocky movies?
I love them. I love Sylvester Stallone. I'm fascinated by him. And I can't remember, you were watching a documentary at some point, and I heard his voice, but it was articulate.
Right.
It was the first time I'd heard him not be Rocky, and I was like, what?
Yeah. It's because he's known for Rocky and Rambo. Rocky's known for not being particularly intelligent. Rambo's known for not talking. And then Stallone is funny and like this intelligent person.
Very
that's
smart.
Like very intelligent person that's obviously had this amazing career. And so when you hear interviews with him, he's just much more insightful and self-depreciating than you'd expect.
And I love the origin of the movies, that he wanted to be Rocky and that he pushed for it and he was this nobody and now he's Sly. He
is. Number 8, Warrior, the movie that out-Rockies Rocky. Now, you have this one ahead of Rocky, though, so what's that about?
Well, it was a last-minute switch, as a matter of fact.
It's a tough one. A lot of people say this because everyone's like, man, Rocky's one of my favorite movies, but wow, Warrior is even better.
Well, and it's more rewatchable to go with what we were talking about earlier. And I mean, Rocky is great, but there's so many of them. And then there's some that I'm fine skipping, and then there's montages that, of course, I've seen 9 million times. Like, almost daily. Not an exaggeration. Not an exaggeration.
As things should be. But then, back to Warrior.
Amazing. I mean, just, I think... Are we doing spoilers? Have I given away other things in other movies?
You can't, let's not spoil things. Because Warrior's my go-to movie. If you haven't seen Warrior, every time I do a video like this is the movie I say, go watch Warrior.
Watch it.
It's my movie recommendation that I give to everyone. So
and
don't spoil it.
I haven't met anyone that we've suggested it to that didn't come back saying that was amazing.
Yeah. Like, the worst I've gotten from people is like, that was really good. I just wish that. That's, some people say that, and I get it. But I haven't had anyone be like, that one actually sucked. It's basically, the first hour is like this, sets up this family drama, and then the last hour, it's like the craziest hour of nonstop emotional payoff, underdog story, victory, that just hits on so many deep emotional levels.
It's a really good action movie. It's a good sports movie. It's a good family movie. It's a good drama. It's an underdog story. It's just a really well-rounded, interesting, compelling, heartfelt movie.
Yeah.
You should see it if you haven't. It
hits on a lot of levels, and it crescendos so powerfully in the last little bit. That if you haven't seen it, really go watch it. Number 7, our MCU pick on my list. I went with Infinity War. You're going with Endgame for yours. Can't go wrong with either one of those movies. Just kind of depends on what you appreciate.
I felt very differently at the end of both of those movies.
So I saw Infinity War before you, and so then when I watched it the second time, you get to the end of that movie, and I'm like, big grin on my face, and she's like
ready
just
to murder
dead eyeing me, like, I'm gonna kill you. So back to Endgame. Man, that last hour.
So good. First of all, it's one of the most amazing theater experiences I think I've ever had.
And you get to that last hour, and I mean, our theater was going nuts. It's just so good.
It's amazing. The portal scene at the end. Even if it's just like that, I feel like is one of the most shown scenes when Endgame is referenced or a clip is shown, and almost every time even the clip is shown without all the rest of the context, I cry every single time.
And legitimate, whenever we watch like any other Marvel movie, we'll like finish it. We'll like, we just finished Iron Man 3. Let's watch the last hour of Endgame.
Yeah.
Legitimately do that.
Almost every time I see anything sort of around the ballpark of Endgame, I'm like, why don't we just watch Endgame?
Let's watch it.
Let's watch it.
But as for why I have Infinity War, not Endgame, Infinity War, the whole movie is good. Endgame, we're like freaking out about the last hour. And not to say that the rest of the movie isn't as good, but it's a movie that's just so dominated by a last hour that's so good and so rewatchable.
I think I don't disagree with you, but I think that's a hard thing to pinpoint because I think the entire franchise builds up to those two movies, obviously. Yeah. And so it's really hard to pinpoint which part you're actually responding to because there's so much history going into all of it. But we can agree to disagree.
Sort of. Next up, Aliens. And this is where things get interesting because you don't like scary movies.
I do not.
You don't like movies where creatures are eating people, that are tension-filled. That is not your thing.
Children in peril.
And of all these movies, even above MCU, you have Aliens. That just goes to say how good your James Cameron is at crafting these movies. Why do you love the Aliens?
Well, I mean, what's not to love? We almost named our girl dog Ripley, but she's Pity. We didn't want it to be scary. Spoiler alert, maybe, I don't know. Just the whole concept of sort of the who's trustworthy being played with and switched, and so there's the android in the first one that was not trustworthy, and the ship and the company that were. And it sort of flipped on its head for this one. And I think there's something so really impressive about Ripley in general, how she is the female...
My second favorite movie character of all time.
Rocky's your first?
Rocky's number 1.
Ripley is an admirable second. I approve. She's strong. She's smart. She's logical. She is not emotionless and heartless.
You're going out there to destroy them, right? Not to study, not to bring back, but to wipe them out.
This movie in particular brings out that kind of maternal, protective side. I love how she earns the trust and respect of the other people on the crew. She's just a real, I know she's not a real person, but she's like a real person.
And that's a full characterization.
She's a full character.
That has multiple layers. She's not one note. It's not just strong female character because she's tough. No, she's like a person that's trying to do the right thing and feels connected to this girl and very maternal towards her.
It's wonderful.
In 5th place, Back to the Future. We love time travel movies.
Love them.
Time loop movies. Anything with time going crazy, we're probably going to like it.
Maybe that's why I like Endgame more.
It's entirely possible. It would fit entirely into a common theme in things that we enjoy. Why do you enjoy this movie, Back to the Future?
I don't think that even really needs explaining. I think it's so high up on the list because of rewatchability.
Yeah.
It's wholesome, it's fun, we can watch
it. It's wholesome, but it's also not always not as wholesome as you remember. Every time you rewatch it, you're like, oh, this thing's like driven by an incest plotline.
Ew. Now that you say that, just box me in a corner, please. Yes.
Want to show the kids it next week?
I did until...
What's incest, Mommy?
Who's Calvin Klein? Our kids don't talk like that.
Yeah, we're great at impressions. But so it's just such a well-crafted movie that has characters that you love, that it's funny, it has adventure. It's just well done and has a little bit of something for everyone.
I think well-rounded characters as well. Like, even if there aren't a lot of scenes with them, they feel like whole people.
Yeah.
They don't feel like caricatures of people. It just feels...
Maybe Biff is, but you get one. You get one person that's just kind of the stereotype. But then other people, they have kind of more layers to them. They have character arcs. They grow. They change.
Yeah, Biff just gets worse.
Yeah, he does.
But it's still an
That's
arc.
a character arc, yeah. Was even that he gets rapey at the end of it, so maybe it's not as wholesome as we thought. Let's scratch the wholesome part.
Let's not show it to the kids yet.
Yeah. 2 weeks from now.
Shut up.
In 4th place, Die Hard. When it comes to just straight action movies without mixing in other subgenres, I'd say this is the greatest action movie of all time. And, important note in our marriage, you're the one that normally brings up most December's like, hey,
a lot.
We haven't watched Die Hard yet.
Yep.
It is not Christmas season until someone has fallen from Nakatomi Plaza.
That sounds just like
and
me.
Once again, great at impressions. And so, what do you enjoy about this movie?
I don't even know that I'm capable of describing it. Like, it's just such a great movie. It's such an unexpected movie. Like, I don't remember the first time I saw it, so I can't...
Right.
talk about, I was so surprised when this happened. But I never get tired of watching it, ever. John McClane. Bruce Willis.
Well, it's just ability to have the guy that does all the escapist action movie things while maintaining the everyman quality. And he's a very flawed
really
person that, like, he's working through his marriage problems by killing terrorists. And then, of course, that's my impression of the movie, or understanding the movie. A script where everything that happens in the first 10 minutes matters later on. Someone saying, like, yeah, if you take your shoes off and rub them on the carpet, like something really strange.
How many people do that, though? Like, how many people ground themselves like that because of Die Hard? Like, I hear it a lot in casual conversation.
No idea. But you think, like, it's like this small little line of dialogue that really matters. He's talking with Argyle, the limo driver, and that matters for what plays out. And it's just a really well thought out script.
And Carl Winslow.
Carl Winslow. There's so many, just like these little, like small parts in it, cast with great actors that they just got it right.
It's just a complete movie.
Real quick before we dive into the top 3, why don't you join me down below in the comment section? How would you rank my 15 favorite movies My list isn't the right list. Her list isn't the right list. And we would love to see your ranking of my 15 favorite movies. Also, while she hasn't appeared in many videos, she has appeared in a couple in the past. Last year, actually was back in 2020 for our anniversary, I ranked her 14 favorite movies of all time. And then last year, we did a video on I believe our favorite rom-coms. You can check out the Wife with the Wife videos right up here. In third place, Terminator 2 Judgment Day. This is number 1 on my list. And it kind of goes back to many of the things we've discussed in here of just really well-crafted films. Mm-hmm. James Cameron, time travel, mash it all together. Strong female protagonist in Sarah Connor, who has many layers to her. And then a movie where, the Terminator starts his killer machine and kind of learns to what it means to be human. Then the mother, who was afraid of Terminators in the first one, essentially becomes a Terminator in this film. She wants to go kill Miles Dyson, and through the son, who's able to get a Terminator to stop killing people and learn the value of human life, and gets the mother to also realize, snap back into her humanity. Through that, he ends up fulfilling his destiny and saves mankind. And it's just like a movie that is much more profound than it seems at surface value. Because you have Arnold with the minigun. You have incredible stunts. But it's a movie that really is thoughtful, has deep character arcs, themes, all that fun stuff.
I just want to go watch it right now.
And we watched it 2 weeks ago. We watched it with our kids last month during spring break.
I know Terminator 2 is on this, and I would still vouch, obviously, for Terminator 2, but the whole series, whole franchise, I even like the ones that everyone else hates. I can't. I love it. I love Arnold. I love him.
Come with me if you want to live.
Every time people ask that, if you could sit down with a famous person or have a phone call with a famous person, Arnold is always my guy, because he's fascinating. But I love what he did with the kids. Our
runner-up, Jurassic Park.
What a list that the runner-up is Jurassic Park. It's a good list, Sean.
Yes.
It's dinosaurs.
It is.
It's practical effects.
With the right mix of practical with CGI, yes. Where they knew the limitations and they went, okay,
it's that perfect balance.
Like when you're afraid of CGI, but you want to use it, and you have the respect for it. Same way that John Hammond didn't respect the science.
He did not.
But Spielberg respected the CGI, and therefore he didn't have the same CGI disaster that Hammond did with his technology. I think that worked.
That was very, very close.
Whew. All right. What else?
It's so believable. Yeah. And I mean, even in some modern situations, you go, humans are stupid. Yeah. And of course they would do that.
Yeah, but your scientists were so preoccupied with whether or not they could, they didn't stop to think if they should.
What elevates the first movie is a little bit what you just said of that Michael Crichton science that he really brought to, especially the first one, where just you think to it and you go, yeah, that sounds just believable enough. And then an amazing set of characters.
The other thing that I love about Jurassic Park is I feel like in a way, even though we're watching it as outsiders, we're almost taken through the natural progression of everyone else in the film. Everyone has a different perspective. Jeff Goldblum in particular is life will find a way. But right. You're enchanted by the dinosaurs in the beginning, and you're just wowed and impressed by all of it, and you fail to see the danger that's super obvious. Yeah.
But when you think, what do you want from an escapist blockbuster? Jurassic Park is about as good as it can get, where you have intelligence, you have great characters, and then you just have a wow-inducing concept of seeing dinosaurs brought back to life, which, especially if you go back in time 30 years when the movie came out, you hadn't seen anything that wow. Those are dinosaurs. And it still looks incredible almost 30 years later. But we've made it to our number 1 spot with Indiana Jones. For mine, I went with Raiders of the Lost Ark, but right there tied with it for me is also Last Crusade. For you, it's Last Crusade all the way.
Every day.
What do you enjoy about these Indiana Jones films?
I do like them all, as the franchise, but this one is it for me. I love how it shows a little bit of the origin. I love how it shows kind of the relationship arc between father and son, and specifically how the knowledge of the Grail lore was interwoven into their relationship. My favorite part, I think, still is when he's got the Grail diary and Hitler autographs it. It's just so funny. It's witty, it's clever, it's kind of callback to the way older movies, but it's modern. The pacing is good.
It's not modern anymore. It's 30 years old.
But I mean, it's told in a modern format and a modern story. It's not
Modern
told like
pacing.
an old. I lied a little bit on accident. My second favorite part is the Grail diary with Hitler. My first favorite part is when he's going through the to get the actual Grail, and he's following the steps, and he has to step off the lion's head.
Oh, with the shot. Yeah.
Yes. Where he steps out onto
the leap of faith.
False. Yes.
Yeah. So, because of all of that, of my 15 favorite movies, it comes in
number one.
At number one. Thank you so much for joining me. These are always fun to be able to do this. I know being on camera is not your favorite thing to do, but it always brings a new dimension, I think, to the channel, to the videos, and people always...
my channel, as it turns out.
Yeah, your channel, since really you're the one writing all of my reviews and rankings. But... whenever we do these, I get a ton of positive feedback every time that you're on. They ask you to be in more videos in my comment section. To close this video out, remember, we have done 2 of these in the past before. You can check them out right over there, something like that, where I ranked her 14 favorite movies, and then we did our favorite rom-coms. Also, remember, if you want to join Raid Shadow Legend, this is the perfect time to do it. Use that link down below in the description and that promo code to get your free gifts, and keep talking movies and TV too much.